Welcome back to Open to Truth. I'm Clinton.
Hi, I'm Tony. Welcome back.
And boy, I want to spend some time talking with my friend about aliens.
Great. I would love that. That'd be great.
Have
you seen some recently? Why is this on your mind?
I haven't seen them, but I want to know if they are real.
Okay. You're a sci-fi guy. You just saw the recent Star Wars.
I love sci-fi.
So you got it on the mind.
I like certain brands.
Okay.
You know, I don't consume all sci-fi, but
Do you prefer the sci-fi that is like there's aliens, or the sci-fi that's like Black Mirror, technology gone awry?
I like both of
You like
those
both?
cases that you just mentioned.
Science and fiction.
Yeah.
I like them when they meet. Great.
Yeah, so one observation, just on the topic of sci-fi, almost all depiction, like the frontier of adventure for our generation is either distant past, like Lord of the Rings, Game of Thrones, Vikings, or whatever else, and then into the future, spacefaring civilizations, and the existence of aliens goes totally unquestioned. There's Wookiees like Chewbacca,
yeah.
Vulcans.
You're
like
saying in our
Spock.
entertainment industry,
Yeah,
it tends to be either like medieval fantasy magic or futuristic technology magic
Right.
and aliens. Yeah. Fair enough. I thought you were going to say the frontier that faces humanity now is the great beyond, space.
Sorry.
We've kind of mapped
Yeah.
everything on Earth. What other realms are there to explore? Well, space is certainly a obvious
Right.
one.
And so, sorry, the point of that was to mention that almost all of the space adventures that are discussed involve aliens.
In movies and TV, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's kind of taken for granted. Of course they're out
Yeah,
there.
and it's
they-
almost like the point of it is
Yeah.
to explore the other cultures and how the politics and interacting with those species
and they all
goes.
speak English and
Right.
yeah.
Common
Yeah.
tongue.
Yeah.
Or basic. So, yeah, I guess I have some questions about do we have any good evidence? Should I think that aliens are real? Not any of the specific ones.
Wookiees.
Yeah.
Do I think Ewoks are real?
Or the traditional,
Roswell Gray?
yeah,
Yeah.
cone. What is it? What's that shape? Like an oval or?
Shaped like a guitar pick.
Yeah.
You know? I don't know what the name of that shape is, but cardioid maybe? Yeah.
So, but is there some intelligent life
Yeah.
in the universe besides things on Earth?
Humans. Well, off the bat, personally, my own, in terms of evidence, and
Like gun to your head. What do you think? Are there aliens?
yes.
Oh my gosh.
That just came out. I don't know why. It just came out.
You think it? You do think
Yeah. Yes.
there are? Wow.
The only thing that's tripping me up there is the time, like that there presently are. I'm inclined to think that at some point there either have been or will be other intelligent races other than humans.
From time, eternity past.
Right. From T0
Yeah.
to the infant
There
to the heat
are-
death of the universe. I don't think humanity will be the only intelligent race that crops up.
Oh my gosh. Okay. And
And the reason I think
you think just to be clear, I'm
Yeah.
nitpicking, not some other species that comes from us.
right.
That,
I'm not
that
talking about
separately-
evolution. You mean
separate origination.
Yeah.
Separate.
Abiogenesis and
Yes.
yeah. And the reason that I say that is just because of the vastness of space and time. Like, this thing is so much bigger than we can even understand or even begin to talk about intelligently with words and with numbers. The mind can't hold before it the scope of the universe. And so it seems to me naive to think that Earth is the only life-bearing planet among just how many planets in the universe? Quadrillions? Just tons and tons and tons of them. There are trillions and trillions of stars that are like our sun, with planets orbiting them, solar systems. So to think that this is the only planet in the whole thing
Yeah.
Seems unlikely.
And another observation from sci-fi, I think toward the beginning of the sci-fi era, it was much more part of the ethos of it that like, oh, this is like the vastness was more upfront and like part of the experience of consuming that media. But now,
What do you mean? Sorry, what do you mean by that?
what I mean, well, contrast that with Star Wars, where the vastness of space
Doesn't come into
is
it?
almost entirely irrelevant. It's never talked about.
Yeah.
That Tatooine, the desert planet, is far away from Coruscant, the
Right.
main central city planet. Doesn't matter at all.
They've solved travel.
I
at
can
that
get there in
point.
hyperspace.
It's
It
like,
might
doesn't
as well
matter.
just be like a different city on a
Yeah.
in the same. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think sometimes we do the modern sci-fi does a disservice to understanding just how vast it is.
Yeah, right.
Like they just went to Kashyyyk and Tatooine and back to Naboo, and it's like, oh,
Yeah.
they're zipping around like a taxi.
Yeah.
And these things, it would take light,
Yeah.
thousands of years to get there.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
It's-
It's hard. You can't really even hold it before the mind.
No, it's
Yeah.
so much bigger than we think it is.
And not only the vast emptiness between celestial bodies, but how many of them there are.
Yeah.
There's billions of stars in the Milky Way.
Yeah.
And some of them are sun-like. They're like Sol, as it's sometimes called.
Soul, yeah.
And some of them, I mean, a lot of them have planets. And there might be one that's in the Goldilocks space out from the sun where
just
the right
right.
right gravity. And another variable that I think may contradict like the anthropic principle is that intelligent life doesn't necessarily have to be like this in this type of body. Mm-hmm. So people might be, well, what are the chances that you're going to find this exact distance from the sun and this exact
Yes.
gravity pull? It's like, well, there might be other bodies.
Different forms of life
Yeah.
might emerge under
Yeah,
different
I'm not
conditions.
convinced that this particular type of gray matter is the only configuration that can produce consciousness.
The only
and-
substrate that it can run on. Yeah. So, so talk to me about that. This idea of implications for maybe your understanding as someone who's grown up with a faith, a belief in God and Christianity, and I for a long time paid close attention to all those little details that needed to be just right for life to emerge here, like Jupiter protects us from asteroids, and we are this far from the sun, and if we had been tilted any more degrees, like, or just slightly further away, it wouldn't have happened. And that's all sort of spoken with an air of God has ordained it perfectly for humanity to exist right here on this planet in this way, and with sort of this implication that that's the only place in the universe he's fine-tuned the whole thing for this one planet to be perfectly positioned where it needs to be for humanity to exist. But you're saying
I don't find that as convincing as I used to.
Yeah.
So during seminary, that's just a version of the design argument or the teleological argument for the existence of God.
the fine-tuning of the universe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you can almost there's probably we could go into this more, like the different responses to this, but
Sure.
you can almost flip it on its head with we just keep finding more about the vastness of space and even like a multiverse hypothesis that's floating around. You could easily make the claim, well, the fact that you're even observing anything at all isn't that surprising. So chances are something like this would exist and would propagate life, and here you are observing it. So
I think
it's like a chicken egg problem.
yeah, what you're saying is if conditions hadn't been right, you wouldn't be here to observe it.
Yeah.
Being right. So any place an observer exists, conditions have been met.
Mm-hmm. And the other piece is that is not as unlikely as it seems. The vast pool you have to rent, like how do I say it? Oh my gosh! Imagine like when you're picking out a ball for the lottery, like you're trying to pick out a certain number. Well, in this case, we don't have to just pick one ball. Like it's one out of a gazillion chances that the planet would be like this. It's like, well, there are a gazillion planets.
Yeah.
So one of them is going to be, like, chances are there's going to be one like it. And here we are.
Yeah.
It's kind of like that reason. Do you get what I mean?
I do get what you mean.
It's not like, so when someone says, yeah, it's 1 out of a million chances. Yeah, but there were a million chances to draw it. So it's like a guarantee that it'll happen.
Yeah.
That's
I get what you're saying. There is a response to that that I'm thinking of, that I can hear Bill Craig's voice echoing in my mind.
Okay.
To that response, but I'm not sharp enough to be able to.
Yeah.
articulate
Maybe that'll
it.
be bonus content.
Yeah.
We'll revisit it.
I know he addresses that and the firing squad analogy and all of that.
Mm-hmm.
But how about this then? You're someone who has a biology background, right? You did your undergrad in bio.
Mm-hmm.
I'm wondering, initially we set the bar for, do you think there are aliens, intelligent life? And I sort of gun to my head said, yes. There might be some people who are very hesitant to get on board with that. And I'm wondering, is it more likely, what if we ask the question, is there any form, is there bacteria?
I mean, that's way more
Right?
likely.
Doesn't
Yeah.
that seem way more likely?
Particularly when you phrase it like, if they've ever existed
Yeah.
than currently.
Has there ever been microscopic life on other
And then you
planets?
get what's life,
Right.
what counts as that, and maybe like it's reproducible,
Yeah.
self-replicating.
Yeah. Would it bother you if we discovered intelligent life?
Well, this is a good question. Yeah, I want to dive into that a little bit more. What attitude should I have about the possibility that there's aliens?
Yeah. Fear?
It could be
Maybe.
that's reasonable.
Yeah.
There's fear, excitement. It depends on the attitude of the alien.
Yeah, right.
You know, do they wish me harm or benefit?
I think that'd be so fascinating to try to... I just think about the different levels that exist in conscious creatures on this planet in cognitive capacity. The differences in cognitive capacity among conscious creatures on this planet is so great that if you extend that to the whole universe, it could be that an alien would be so far cognitively advanced that I would almost have no concept really of what's going on in their head. In the same way that my dog just can't even begin to understand the richness of my inner experience and my thought. Would we be like that dog to the alien, where that we are insignificant? We're not even, we're more like ants on a planet that's not worth interacting with. Like, there's possibility, I think, that there is a race out there or something, or has been or could be at some point, that's so advanced they don't even really care about us and wouldn't pay us any attention.
Yeah, we are like ants.
Would use us in some way, in the same way that we can manipulate animals' habitats to make them better or worse or whatever. Maybe they've already done that, and the way that we go about our lives is somehow powering their cities or something.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like,
so for a long time, there's been this organization, I guess, called SETI.
Yeah.
The Search for Extraterrestrial.
You got it, man. You got it.
Terrestrial.
Now say it quickly.
Extraterrestrial
He got it.
intelligence.
Nice work.
And they have annual or whatever meetings.
Yeah.
And I was just looking at it the other day, and there were portions of the event devoted to, like, should we be doing this?
Wow.
To your point, like, we spent so much time figuring out if we could, and we never thought about whether we should.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like Jurassic Park style.
Yeah. And then
It'd be cool. Like, it's cool, as, like, stupid as that word is, if we found them, but, like, it could...
Yeah, it's neat.
Yeah.
It's neat.
But it could be really bad.
Could be catastrophic for us. The other piece of it is, it could go the other way, where we discover life that, to all appearances, they look like animals to us, or like we would classify them in some way as we found a planet with roaming beasts. Oh, okay. And how do we figure out how conscious are they? What rights do they have? Can they make moral choices? Do they have a sense of morale? Like, how much value do we place on life that we find somewhere else? Would be an interesting discussion.
And what's now that we're thinking about it, it's probably really likely that they're going to be pretty different.
Yeah.
Like, the chances of them
How
being...
strange would it be if they looked like us? That would...
Yeah.
Then it starts
or
to
like
feel
at the
uncanny.
same level or whatever of consciousness.
It'd be really strange. You'd start to suspect foul play,
Yeah.
I think. Wouldn't you, right? If you discovered a planet out there with human-like creatures, you'd start to think, all right, there's kind of a blueprint here that's
Yeah.
seems to be playing out.
That'd be fascinating.
Yeah. And then how would we interact with them? How would you even begin to communicate and bridge that gap?
And like a lot of sci-fi is kind of like that.
What do you mean?
They're humanoid in a way.
Oh, yeah. 2 legs, 2 arms, and a head. Now, they've got human actors for the most part who
Right. What
need
can
to
we
fit
do?
into the costume or something.
Well, no, yeah. But even the CGI characters,
They're not totally foreign and alien.
right?
They're not like Ditto, the Pokemon, just a glob.
Right. Amoeba.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. So you said a second ago, you brought up faith
Oh, I did.
a few moments ago.
Yeah.
Let's revisit that.
Okay, yeah.
So at least for my upbringing, it was never on. Well, my parents didn't really censor literature or media
Yeah.
in
sure.
any way. Like that was out of the norm.
Yeah.
So, like I didn't read really violent novels or something.
Yeah.
But like some families that I knew would not let their kids get into Harry Potter and stuff.
Sure.
Because even though it's fictional, it like kind of looks like the demonic.
Yeah.
So there was never I have never heard of anyone not being allowed to watch Star Wars on that basis.
Yeah, right.
Because
Me
the
either.
idea of aliens contradicted scripture. However,
Mm-hmm.
I think if you pressed a lot of conservative
Mm-hmm.
Christians, let's say, on it, they would be hesitant.
Uncomfortable with the idea.
Yes.
Yeah. Why
Yeah.
is that?
Why is that? I think one huge reason would be issues surrounding Genesis
The
1
book of
through
Genesis.
11.
Yeah.
Yep.
So the creation narrative
I don't wanna-
doesn't mention it.
Yep. It
Seems
doesn't
very
mention it.
Earth-centric.
It seems like that would have been a detail we'd like to know about.
And that assumes you're taking Genesis 1 through, say, 3 to be
Totally.
a definitive account of how everything came to be, including life on this planet, and directly uttered from God. You know, that, oh, this is God telling us how we came to be. If there were aliens, he would have mentioned, like, and then God created multiple planets with many different life forms, and that's not in there. It kind of, the first verse is in the beginning.
There's
God
a lot of
created
assumptions baked into this worry,
yeah.
if it's indeed a worry.
Right. It's kind of an argument from silence. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And there's also that entire sort of narrative of this sin problem and Jesus coming to be our savior is very humanity centric. It's very here's a problem with the human condition. We have gone astray, and so God himself needs to incarnate on our planet as Jesus and die this death, however atonement ends up working, and he sort of rescues us. And so the question of, well, is there other life out there? I don't know, it starts to raise questions of, did God have to visit them to solve their sin problem? And
Yeah, absolutely.
did he visit them in their form and then get crucified or killed
Yeah,
somehow?
and how does that work with like the second person of the Trinity and
Yep.
incarnation and
All of that.
and
Will there be aliens in the eternal state, the resurrected state?
is there a other planet out there like Azeroth? And
I think about that, dude. Do you know where I
so
think
we
about
had
that?
a Jesus of Nazareth, maybe they had a Jesus of Encourage,
Yeah.
and he,
Green Jesus. I think about, we haven't, I guess, figured out whether or not space is infinite, right? So I'm going to talk as a layman
Okay.
for a moment. So
Alrighty.
please forgive me. And if you are not a layman and you know more about this, please, by all means, drop some knowledge in the comments because I'd love to learn about this stuff. But here's my attempt. When you try to conceive of the boundary of the universe, what that means, it's hard to even know what would it mean to come up against the edge of the universe beyond which there is nothing. Very hard to even conceive of that. And so I think a lot of physicists kind of conceive of the universe as somehow being more akin to a sphere, and not, it would be some kind of four-dimensional thing, because obviously we already have the 3 dimensions. But in the same way that with a sphere, if you travel around it far enough, you end up back where you started without ever having crossed a boundary.
So a great thought experiment. That's fun. It's for oh shoot, who came up with it? It's some ancient philosopher. wondering about the infinitude of the
Yeah.
cosmos, and he imagined a hoplite soldier throwing his spear.
Yes.
What would happen? Well, if the spear keeps going, then the universe is infinite.
Yeah.
If it lodges into something, then whatever it's lodged into has to take up space. And then,
Yeah.
so it was like a proof of the universe must be infinite.
Yeah.
But I think you're asking, okay, well, if he threw the spear, does it just keep going off and
Or
I
does it
never find it again?
loop
Or
back
does he,
on itself?
if he waits long enough, he'll get poked in the back? by
Right.
it?
Like sort of non-Euclidean geometry that
Yeah.
that circles back on itself.
What a name drop. That's so funny.
Well, I love the video games that incorporate that stuff. But got me thinking in my probably as I'm trying to fall asleep and thinking about Warcraft, but like if the universe is infinite or there are multiverses and just an infinite number of universes, does it mean out there somewhere is
It does.
an Azeroth
It does mean.
and a Thrall and are you and I having this conversation but with a couple of different jokes thrown in or slightly different
It does mean that.
banter? Wigs me out to think about that. It also delights me to think that like somewhere out there Hyrule exists and
Unbelievable.
Link is traipsing through the field. Come on.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know about that. But that's what it would seem to imply. Anything that could exist does.
Yeah.
In
Yeah, the
some ways.
multiverse.
I get lost when I start to think or talk about the multiverse.
That really explodes the number of aliens.
Yes.
And-
right.
And
Right.
at that point,
Right.
it's
Sorry, that was all a detour because you mentioned Azeroth, but
no, I think
you were talking about faith.
that's helpful. Yeah, I think we kind of covered it. I would just so I guess we might wonder. I don't know if we want to give what we personally think about it. I these days I do not find it would be earth-shattering to my faith to discover that there were aliens.
Yeah.
There's a lot of other concerns that we've already mentioned, like do they wish me harm and should I be on the lookout for them?
Yeah, it doesn't rattle my worldview at all. I'm fine with the idea that we're not the only ones who exist. Or
And
did.
in fact, I think it's reasonable to so each of us has a theology, a worldview, and here's this idea that we've had: what if we are not alone in the universe? Well, don't you think like we should try to make space for that in our worldview? Because we've just this is an annoying philosophy term.
Please.
It's called the pessimistic meta-induction.
Great.
So it's this idea in philosophy of science where we ought to doubt our current scientific theories because they have all been wrong in the past, basically.
Sure.
They have not all been totally accurate.
Yeah.
So just have a healthy doubt, at the very least, about
Everything is susceptible to revision.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I want to be careful with my theology too, because things have been overturned in church history.
Yeah.
Like the church used to excommunicate and exile people that taught heliocentrism. The church thought geocentrism, where Earth is at the center of the solar system and the sun and stars are going around it. Right? It looks like it. Sure, of course I thought that. The sun looks
It
like
rises and it sets.
Yeah. But then technology happened, telescopes, different tools. Galileo comes up with, oh wait, it's heliocentrism. The sun's at the center and we're moving around.
Yeah.
Total paradigm shift.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. Copernican revolution type stuff. And the church it has pivoted.
Yeah.
No self-respecting church scholar thinks that geocentrism is true.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, so I just want to be careful. I don't, for my own sake, like I identify as a Christian and I care about Christendom.
Yeah.
I don't want us to all be embarrassed one day because
Right.
aliens turned out to exist and we built a theology
That required that we take a hard no
when in
stance on
fact
it.
we
Right.
perhaps do not.
Better to remain a little agnostic about that.
That's
Yeah.
kind of my take on it.
Now, couple of other thoughts I think are interesting on this. One is you're familiar with the Fermi Paradox.
I am.
Do you want to explain it
Sure.
to folks? The Fermi Paradox. Sorry, right as you took a sip of coffee, I lobbed
Well-
you that ball.
Well, it's we already talked about the first part of the paradox. So one horn of it is the vastness of space and the high probability that life is out there.
Yeah.
Okay, we already talked about that. Well, the other part of the paradox is that, well, if it's so likely that they exist, then how come
Where's the evidence?
we don't have any evidence of any of them existing?
Why haven't we heard about them or contacted them, or they haven't contacted us?
Yeah, and there's a ton of different ways to address the paradox. So one way that we've already talked about is like they are hesitant to deal with us, right? Didn't we mention that?
Yeah, they might not see us worth dealing with.
Right, that we are ants to them.
They're not interested in
Maybe
what we
they're
have to
waiting
offer.
for our evolution
Right.
to pick up some speed and get there.
They'll visit us in a few million.
Or we're too violent. We're not ready to join
Yeah.
the universe civilization.
Wow. They're watching to see, can they stop fighting each other? Yeah.
We aren't searching for evidence properly. That could be a thing. SETI,
The wrong kind of evidence.
or looking in the wrong spots. I mean, SETI is, again, like the search for extraterrestrial intelligence, is not able to scan. It's a vanishingly small fraction of the night sky that it's able to purposely try to collect data
Totally.
from.
Totally.
What kind of data are we looking for? You know, these are all like super complicated questions of communicating. Is there some kind of universal language that we could expect them to communicate with, like prime number
Yeah,
sequences
don't you think
and
math would be the first?
binary? Yeah,
I think that's really interesting. How would you begin to even talk to them?
totally. Can we throw up on the screen a picture of this on the video?
Yeah, we'll put that up.
There's the, I want to pronounce this right, Arecibo message.
Yeah.
You gotta take a look at it. It looks like a kid, you know, the Light Bright, that little toy for kids where you stick in pegs and they
Yeah.
light up on a blackboard.
So
It looks like that. It's
Yeah.
ridiculous looking that this is what we sent an intelligent potential species. But it's laced with meaning in terms of binary.
And what, we sent this on is it part of Voyager? When did we send this out? Or was it like a data burst that we sent out?
Oops. That was a message we sent out in 1974 toward a galaxy, I think.
Like physically just launched
Well,
it
I
out
don't know
there?
about physically.
Or it's just
A
we
data
went,
burst. I
yeah,
don't know.
I don't know.
Well, like,
Radio signals or something.
yeah.
Okay.
They are here unacknowledged. Maybe they're among us.
Oh, that's an answer to the Fermi Paradox?
Yeah.
Right. Right.
The one that is I've heard most commonly, and has some oomph to it, is that civilizations don't last long enough.
Right. Just because as much as we think about the vastness of space, physically how big it is, it's also really freaking old. Like Neil deGrasse Tyson does this thing in his Cosmos about the cosmic calendar, from the beginning of the universe to today. Yeah. If you were to scale that whole time scale down to be a 12-month year, like a calendar year, humans come on the scene 30 seconds before midnight, or like 10 seconds before midnight on December 31st at the end of the year. Like we have just woken up and gone, oops, we're here. Now what? What's going on?
Yeah.
We only just came on the scene. There are 12 other months where other civilizations could have arisen, destroyed themselves, gone extinct. Who knows? And
how
never
things are
would have known.
exponentially happening now too.
Yeah.
It's so hard to fathom what 20 or 2,200 will be like.
Yeah, it's unthinkable. Yeah.
So there's that angle where it's super vast and it would take a long time to visit other places. But also, like, the more worrisome and maybe like a practical thing we can begin to think about is I take it to mean, and of course others do too, that civilizations don't last long enough because they end up cannibalizing. It destroys
themselves.
itself. So probably other civilizations would encounter the notion of atoms. If they're good enough to spacefarer, it's probably going to involve some nuclear reactions.
Yeah.
Understanding, here's the periodic table of elements. These aren't changing. This is fundamentally part of the universe.
What we have to deal with.
Yeah, and that was part of that message that they sent out, like recognizing that we know about carbon.
Right.
That's a thing.
We found carbon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That has the same amount of protons here as it will across the galaxy.
Yeah, on Tatooine.
Yeah, man. And so like we kind of just found out about that there's elements.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When? Do you know when?
No,
When
I
was the
don't.
periodic table?
Well, I mean, there's some Greek philosophers were atomists.
Sure.
Just like they're
The smallest possible unit of matter.
Right,
We're trying
yeah.
to figure out.
Yeah,
Conceptual.
we're always on the hunt for
Yeah.
that. So and we have struggled to handle it well.
That knowledge, yeah, it's caused a lot of
A
destruction.
nuclear bomb has gone off. I don't want to get into the politics of it or whether that was right or wrong,
but it happened.
It happened, and hundreds of thousands of people died. Right now, as we're filming, like Reddit is abuzz with worry
World War III.
about World War III.
Yeah.
And that could happen. I don't know. It's just any civilization that's going to make it has to get through this period of
We have
nuclear capability
Yeah.
and peace
Yeah.
at the same time. And it's going to be tough. I mean,
Yeah.
you could see if it gets into the wrong hands, it's really, really bad. I mean, everyone can agree with that, right?
Yeah, yeah.
You only need a few bad actors
Mm-hmm.
to
And
really
the whole thing comes crumbling
screw
down.
it up. So the idea is that the reason we haven't seen them is because it just takes so darn long to get to the point where you can send a emissary
Mm-hmm.
to make contact. Because it doesn't matter. As long as you send the emissary, then we don't care what happens back home in terms of making contact or evidence, right?
What? What do you mean?
For human beings to discover evidence that there is alien life, we don't need that civilization to have lasted a second longer than that spaceship left their
Right.
planet.
We only need the travelers.
Yeah, yeah.
And we'll go, they are out here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But that up until then, that's still a long time. We're not there yet.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, that's a thought
Yep.
as well. So, yeah, look that up sometime. Answers to the Fermi Paradox.
Yeah, it's
kind of
interesting.
fun.
I do wonder how we would end up trying to communicate with them. There is that movie. What is the name of that?
Signs?
No,
Oh.
the one where time is a circle and the language is glyphographic or whatever it is. The twist at the end.
Arrival.
Backwards causality. Arrival. Yes, I think that is it.
Yeah.
Where aliens come and make first contact, and the whole thrust of that movie is this main character is a linguist or something and is trying to figure out how to communicate with these aliens, and it's wild. I think universal truths is where you would have to start, right? You have to start, do they understand numbers? I have no clue how you would move from numbers to abstract concepts, but I mean, language baffles me at the best of times anyway, so
Yeah.
I don't know how we do it. I don't know how you and I agree on what we mean by the word thinking.
You bring this up a lot.
It
Yeah.
baffles me. It really troubles me. I don't know how I learned what that word means.
Yeah.
But
Well, so yeah, I'm not terribly worried about in my lifetime alien contact.
what do you make of the stories of probings and abductions? And because there are people who will go to their graves swearing, I had an experience with an alien intelligence. Woke up in the middle of the night, bright lights in my room, or woke up in a strange table being experimented on, and
Yeah.
I lost time. I looked at my clock, and when I looked back, 45 minutes had gone, and I had no memory of what happened.
Yeah. I guess it might just
Mental
be
illness?
For me, it might just be as simple as I don't view them as reliable testimony givers. I'm not in a relationship with them, like a friendship where their trust has built.
If I came to you and said I had a weird experience,
That would-
that
yeah.
would carry more weight.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it's just some random guy on a Discovery Channel special. And there have been, like, people are out there deliberately trying to trick people.
Yeah, right.
Like, there was a guy stomping around the Pacific Northwest in a huge Sasquatch costume. And people thought, like, oh my gosh, I've seen Sasquatch. And then
Yeah.
it came
Or think
out.
of what you could do with drones now, to simulate UFOs and
Yeah. And there's like, the people have noticed, like, we don't have anything that could possibly make that kind of turn that quickly or change direction. No known human compound can thrust like that to. Well, I don't know. Governments are making new weapons and vehicles all the time. I don't know what they're doing over there. So just me personally,
Yeah.
I don't feel like I have good evidence that aliens exist.
All right, audience. If you have had an encounter, please write into the show.
That needs to be offered.
Do your best to sway Clint. If you know about thrust and what's physically possible with aircraft, also write into the show.
Oh man, we're gonna get a lot of pictures with red circles and,
Yeah, look
and arrows.
Right. There's a part of me that's like, I watched a lot of X-Files, and I do want to believe. I want to believe.
Do you?
I think so. Well, because like this is Einstein's thing, right? The either we're alone in the universe or we're not, and both are equally terrifying.
Oh, good.
Isn't that cool?
Yeah.
I think I would rather not be alone in the universe.
Really? I don't know.
I prefer a universe that's teeming with
You're
life.
not alone. That's the thing.
Yeah, but we are. We might be.
Okay. But what if
So much of it's just empty, dead matter bumping into itself. I don't know. I can imagine a more beautiful, rich, flourishing universe that has life scattered throughout it.
Yeah, but what if I don't see this talked about very often, so maybe I'm just out to lunch if this doesn't make any sense, but what if we are the progenitors? Like we're at the very beginning of all this.
We're the first ones.
Yeah.
And it spreads
We're the
from
first
here.
ones who have come online. Others may down the line. Or we send colonists out, and if we want to adopt like the evolutionary story totally, then those folks might shift a lot over time and look a lot different hundreds of thousands of years from now.
Could be. Universe it's not half over. Still got a long time to go. Yeah. Right?
Right.
Still got ages to go. Musk, he's on his way to Mars. He's trying to get us there by 2023 or something. That's the dream.
Soon. That is soon.
That's 3 years away. Will somebody be
We'll be
on
right
Mars
in the
in
thick
3
of
years?
Trump's second term.
Wow.
No, I'm kidding.
Wow.
I don't know that for sure.
It's and people are going to sign up for this Mars mission even if it's a one-way trip.
Yeah.
Go and establish a city, a self-sustain, live out their days on the red planet. Would you do that? Little hypothetical.
Yeah.
If you could be guaranteed safety, you're not going to die on the way. You can take your family even, but you will never return to Earth. But you will be the pioneer that helps establish a city on Mars. Would you do that? Doesn't cost you anything. Only your life. You can still communicate with Earth.
I would be willing to do that.
Now, there's latency. You will not be able to game with anybody on Earth without a really bad ping.
I like single player games too.
You do like single player. As long as you got Skyrim.
Send me the new Elder Scrolls.
Yeah.
And Fallout.
You would do that. It would be a heck of an adventure,
As I
wouldn't
get
it?
older, this is interesting. I don't think this is common. As I get older, I'm more likely to want to do it.
That's because you're approaching a midlife crisis where you're wondering if you've done anything significant with your life. And this seems significant.
Well, and I think my attachments to family,
Yeah.
like,
You stand on your own 2 feet a little
yeah,
more.
I'm slowly entering into where I am the patriarch.
Yeah. Right. That's right.
There will be a point where my parents are not,
Mm-hmm.
and then I'll be the grandpa,
Yeah.
and so then the family will just go where I am. I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know if I would. I reckon my brother would.
I'd really want a lot more details. Like, is there good law and order there?
what
Is
kind
it
of-
just a Wild West?
What kind of food? Elon Musk is not going to have a Wild West
How
kind
do you
of a
prevent it? Is it a police state? Like, it'd be super hard to replicate right away.
security. He has
I think it'd be pretty
Security
tight
team.
lockdown on what's allowed, and
Yeah. Yeah, you couldn't have infighting
you
and
gotta
sabotage.
be you gotta be careful.
What if they had a saboteur?
And there's just not. Yeah, you can imagine. If all of Iowa burned down,
Iowa?
and
The
all the
state?
crops,
Yeah.
no one is gonna starve from that, because there's a lot of other different food stuff. But this first little colony
Mars.
on Mars, if someone screws with the thing, the greenhouse that we made, then we're all dead. You're bringing people that have a proclivity, perhaps, for a certain amount of crime or misdeeds, and the consequences of those misdeeds, perhaps, that they're used to doing,
Yeah.
are way higher.
So, okay.
But we're not shipping
Yeah, they're not just taking
criminals.
Yeah, it's like it's going to be background checked and scientists who have something to contribute, value adds, you know? They're not going to be calling you and me.
It's not a randomized.
Yeah,
lottery.
not a lottery, right? Right. Fascinating. Man.
Well, hopefully that was a fun little
Yeah.
excursion into sci-fi. Maybe some of it's real.
What do you think? Do they? Have they? Will they exist? Aliens? Gun to my head, I said yes. I stand by it.
But they're out there now. No, just that they have.
It will or has happened. That's what I reckon. How about you? Gun to your head.
Yeah,
Yeah, well,
I do.
that's, when you put the gun to people's heads, they say yes.
But I don't have evidence though, so
No.
I should have not said that. It's the real answer is agnosticism.
That's right.
But
Yeah.
if I had to, you're asking me to guess. I'm guessing
Yeah.
yes.
Well, thanks for watching. If you have a story, something to contribute, thoughts on this, you can reach us at opentotruthpodcast@gmail.com. You can like, comment, subscribe on YouTube. We absolutely will interact with your comments.
Yeah. The best thing you can do to help the podcast at this stage is to share it on social.
Yeah.
Not to like it,
Yeah.
not follow it, share it.
Tell a friend even with your mouth.
It's crazy the metrics on a share.
Yeah.
On a post. It's just exponential reach.
Yeah. Wow.
So,
So,
for what it's worth.
yeah.
Alrighty.
All right. Thanks
We'll
for
see you next
watching,
time.
listening. We'll see you next time. Bye.